Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Barely Famous. I'm your Barely Famous host, Kail Lowry, and today I have Elizabeth April here with me, and I'm super excited about this one because I don't know a whole lot about what you do, but it's super interesting to me. And so I'm going to let you introduce yourself kind of to talk about what you do.
Yeah, for sure. I'm 29 now. When I was a kid, I was born with extrasensory abilities, which basically means that I was able to kind of tune into energies, be super empathic, feel other people's emotions, but also see ghosts and spirits and auras around people and things like that. So I was definitely the weird kid growing up, and it was very difficult to find friends and fit in. Um, I had a lot of imaginary friends, let's just say. And so at around the age of 10, I made a decision to just shut down all of my abilities and to really just fit in, and I actually remember looking around and saying, what are all the popular kids doing? And it was sports. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'll just go ahead and do that. And so, talk about going from a very metaphysical reality to an extremely physical one. And so, kind of getting involved in sports really did ground me and put me into my body. And of course, all of my spiritual gifts went away. And then at around the age of 13, 14 years old, I started to just kind of be a rebel and get involved in I guess just like breaking away from society. But I also felt really anxious and really depressed, and I felt like I had lost my way and I didn't know what I was doing on this planet or what my purpose was. And it felt like no one really had the thoughts that I was having. I remember going to the kids in my high school and saying, hey, like, what's the point? Like, why are we here? Like, what is all of this? And, every single time I just be met with just blank stares. Well, what do you mean? Like, what's the point? We're here. We're in
Mm-hmm.
high school. We're living life. And so I went to my high school teachers. I went to counselors. I went to therapists. I went to every authority figure you can think of to ask these bigger than life questions. I even went to a priest. All right, cool. So you're the guy to talk to. Tell
Mm-hmm.
me, what is this? What are we doing here? What's the purpose of all of this? What is the point of life? Why are we special? Um, and once again, I was just so disappointed with the answers or lack thereof that came back. So at 16, through a lot of depression and anxiety, it was my dad actually who asked me, hey, do you want to try a past life regression? And I said, all right, cool. At this point, I'll try anything.
What is
And
that?
so, what is a past life regression?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So basically, it is where someone takes you into a deep state of meditation, trance-like state. Where it's a state where it's kind of like a dream state. So you're very aware of the dream, you remember everything that's going on, but it's maybe not as visceral or clear as this physical reality. And so in that state, in this deep meditative state, I was able to go back and experience around 5 different lifetimes. Lifetimes where I was a healer or a philosopher or a shaman, but also lifetimes where I was enslaved and persecuted for being able to gain access to knowledge and information. The biggest thing that I came out with after this past life regression was one, oh my goodness, I'm not just 16. Thank God I've been, here before and I'm other things because I felt so stuck. And two, time has got to be an illusion because how is it possible at the age of 16 to be able to explore 5 entire lifetimes in an hour and a half? I mean, come on. So it really opened up this can of worms for me to say, what more is there? And at least I'm on the right track. So I ended up taking my dad's past life regression notebook. I copied all of his regression notes. And 2 years later, when I went away to university, that's how I made university friends. It'd kind of be like a party trick. Hey, do you believe in reincarnation? Do you want to see something cool? Well, let me take you into a past life regression. And so it was probably definitely, not okay for me to do that. I was so untrained, unfit to do that, but it worked. And I was able to really kind of explore these things with other people. And then I started to really step back into my spiritual gifts, telepathy, remote viewing, astral traveling, lucid dreaming, all of these, empathic qualities really came back to me at that time. And shortly after that, I went away to a 10-day silent meditation retreat. This was something that I did in a past life that I wanted to re-explore in this one. And on the second night of meditation, I ended up getting abducted by aliens. Like fully just literally taking me out of my bed, up onto a ship, kind of the typical whatever. There was no sort of probing or anything, but there was a machine that went into my right ear. It was super, super fear-based. Like, I was so scared. At that point in time, I didn't even think about alien life, let alone think that I was ever going to get abducted in this one. So, yeah.
So when this is happening, where are the other people in the that are there with you?
Yeah. So this happened around like 3 a.m., like middle, like dead of the night. I actually had a roommate. So I was sharing a room with someone else who was on the retreat. Of course, the hilarious part is like, it was a silent meditation retreat. So no one was allowed to talk. Like, what a perfect place to abduct someone. And also we were like in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere. Like, it was like, we were so far away from from anyone. So it was really an ideal situation. And so there's basically a sheet in the room that separated me and the roommate. I also know that certain extraterrestrials have the ability to kind of put everyone else who's around asleep, or just make them kind of like that, where you feel paralyzed, you wake up and you feel paralyzed. So that kind of vibe. So I don't know why, it was 3 a.m., so I guess people weren't up, but yeah, so that happened. And of course, that was another huge can of worms that opened up and just blew the lid off of my reality to say, oh my goodness, so if extraterrestrials are not only real, but they're here and they're engaging with humanity, I have all these questions. Why are they here? Who are they? Why are they even bothering to engage with us? Are we some sort of experiment? Have they been doing this for a while? And is our purpose as a humanity entangled with their reason for being here? And so that was about 10 years ago now, and I've used that 10 years to tune into extraterrestrial life, to remote view up to their ships, to do past life regression on others, going into cosmic and interdimensional lifetimes on other planets, in other bodies, in the wildest scenarios you could ever imagine. And for the most part, I feel like I've had some of the answers, at least, to some of these big picture questions, but no one could ever know it all, and I'm still a ball of curiosity, and definitely learn something new every day. So that's kind of my background in and how I came to this point now, where people do look at me as some sort of ET expert, or maybe, I don't know, spiritual awakening expert, just based on the experiences that I've had. And I do want to mention that I never do any external research. So I was told at a very young age not to watch documentaries, read books, really allow any of this information into my perception, to kind of take me off of my own experience, which is that direct connection to source or past lifetimes or those kind of things. So I've really tried to keep my perception as clear as possible. I mean, I'm still dealing with my own human and my own ego and my own kind of way of being, but everything that I know I've experienced directly, and I have not taken externally.
I had a conversation with Kristen. She's my assistant and best friend, and she told me that the government released information about extraterrestrials and UFO things last year, and I evidently live under a rock because I had no idea that they did this. And I guess I never really put a whole lot of thought into, I definitely think that there's life on other planets, but I have been skeptical just because nothing has ever happened to me. I've never experienced anything paranormal. I haven't ever seen aliens or anything like that. And so I'm open-minded. I feel like if it happened to me, I would obviously believe, but I guess because nothing's happened to me, I don't really think too much about it, but I don't. What did the alien? What did the aliens look like? Like, are they like the cartoons that we see, or were they different, or did they look like humans? Like what? And then how did you get back?
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, since then I've had many experiences with many different species of interdimensional. So, anything you could ever possibly imagine or even beyond imagination really exists out there. There's truly an infinite number of different beings, species, civilizations out there in the universe. The ones that took me at 18 were about 7 feet tall, humanoid in the way that they had 2 legs, 2 arms, but they were super like skinny. Their skin was white, but it was so white it almost felt like it was transparent or see-through, like it was that kind of. And then they did have hair, but it was white and it was like scraggly. I don't know. They were not very pretty beings to our standards, and their eyes were quite small. I don't remember if they had a nose. I guess some sort of semblance of a nose and some sort of semblance of a mouth. I don't remember them having ears at all. Yeah, so very odd-looking beings. And it's funny because, this is the civilization that actually does a lot of work with the government. So now I've understood this long after that, and we call them the tall whites. And I'm like, how, unique is that name of like, well, you're tall and you're white, so you're going to be the tall whites, So that's that civilization or species. And we have to understand that there's an infinite number of different beings out there, and there's also an infinite number of different like agendas and situations that they're in. So, some people in this field say all aliens are bad. Some people in the field say all aliens are good. And I'm really split right down the middle. I think that there are some really good ones and some not so good ones, just like human beings. You know what I mean? You're going to get a bad apple every once in a while. So we have to kind of keep our mind open. And I also wanted to mention to you, too, you're like, I've never had a paranormal experience. But, it's like we are physical beings living in this so-called physical reality. But we're actually also like pure energy beings. Mm-hmm. And everything that we interact with is also energy, right? Like you and I are right now, there's some sort of energetic, emotional entanglement that's happening. There are, words that are being unspoken. So we are actually interacting with the non-physical world every single moment of our day. So what I tend to find with people who are like, I've never had an experience, there have definitely been moments in your life where you're like, oh, yeah, that was weird. Mm-hmm. Okay, move on.
Yeah.
Like there's always this like just this. Yeah, there's this like weird. Oh, there's like a shadow in the corner of your eye, but you don't want to explore it, right? Because it's scary. I mean, the fear of the unknown is so rife. So it's really difficult to say that. No one has any experiences. I believe that everyone is psychic. I believe everyone has extrasensory abilities. I believe that everyone is in touch with the energetic realms, and it's just a matter of where's your focus, in your day-to-day life. And the next time you're like, that was weird. I only an hour passed, but it felt like I was doing this thing for 4 hours. That's, there are things like glitches in the matrix or different timelines, or time is becoming very elusive these days, especially post-pandemic. People are experiencing their day-to-day lives in a very different way. And I believe that all of those experiences are also and can be considered paranormal rather than shit levitating off of your table. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be that obvious, or seeing some sort of UFO come down in the sky. Having a very bizarre dream that maybe gives you insight into something that happens that week, that's called precognition. That's a thing, right? Like, we don't, a lot of people don't have the labels for these things, but I truly believe that everyone has experienced this energetic realm around us.
And did your parents always kind of support you in this journey and like what you've been tapping into, I guess, for lack of better words? Have they pretty much supported this for you?
Yeah. So, when I was a kid, when I was a kid and I was seeing ghosts and spirits, it really freaked my mom out. So she was like, okay, cool, you've been watching too many scary movies, like, let's move on, Yeah. And I'm like, okay, cool, yeah, it's a scary movie. And then my dad was much more open, like, at a young age, my imaginary friends, or I was like talking to God, which were really truly just different interdimensional beings or spirit guides. And he'd be like, well, what is God telling you today? And he would like kind of interview me on like, what's going on in my world. And then I remember at 18, I like had to come out to my family. And I actually like, every relationship I've been in, every friendship I've had, like there's kind of this weird, awkward energy of like, so I believe in aliens. And I believe that we are all reincarnated, and I believe that we are pure consciousness beings, and so there's kind of this coming out of the spiritual closet. And, luckily for my current relationship and all my friendships, they kind of came to me with that same energy and vibration. So it wasn't as awkward. But I remember right at the beginning, it was like coming out to people who just did not believe in any of this stuff, and them looking at me like I am batshit crazy. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like that's where humanity's at right now. And like, that's fine. But like, I know what I know based on my own experience, and I can't make anyone have the experiences that I have. So I also can't force them into knowing or truly understanding where I'm coming from. You know what I mean? Totally. Or the knowledge that I have. I can just say what it is and say, take it or leave it, and walk away, right? And plant the seed.
I want to experience it for myself, because I feel like I need to see these other, I don't want to call them creatures. I feel like, are they knowing that you're talking about them right now?
Oh, I mean, yeah, for sure. They're always around. It's very similar to like a spirit. If you think about someone who's passed on, I mean, they immediately come into your energy field. You call them in through your focus and your thoughts. So I want to mention something, talking about
kind of like manifestation, sort of.
Exactly. Like manifestation, and things happen in quantum time. I mean, it's happening instantaneously, probably even before you form the thought. It's happening. So within quantum physics, it states with the double slit experiment that as we observe something, we create it as a solid thing. So like this glass of water, for example, through observing the water is a solid glass, or the glass is solid. What quantum physics and the double slit experiment also states within wave particle duality is that everything behind me that I can't actually observe or see is in a wave state, which means that all the particles are just in chaos until I turn around and observe them. So basically what that means is we create our own reality through observation, but we can only observe the things that we have been told are real. Okay, so if I'm telling you right now that aliens are indeed real and they're out there, you have probably 90% more likely opportunity and chance to experience that. Once again, maybe not in the literal way of seeing the UFO. Maybe it's through a dream. Maybe it's through some crazy article that you read. But there are, you're bringing it into your reality through your current moment right now of observation. So that's what I believe. It's like the knowledge has to come first before the experience. Every once in a while, you'll get someone who has never even thought about aliens and has had the experience, and it comes in, and that's all contracted as well. But yeah, it's really fascinating how rapidly your ascension and your awakening can go the second that you know what is possible out there.
You said something earlier about like what is our purpose here. I just turned 30, and I feel like over the last probably year or so, you said you have been asking that since high school. I have just now started asking, like, we are literal like bones on a body and like in skin and just like walking around, and like what does that mean? Like, what are we here for? Like, what is life literally as human beings? Like, I don't understand. And so then I went down this like rabbit hole on TikTok about other people feeling the same way. Because I'm just like, what is what is it? Like, I don't understand the whole, like, there's a reason for everything. Everything happens for a reason, things like that. But then what is the purpose of me here today, like walking around in a skeleton and skin and muscles and just like existing? Like, we're on a spinning fucking rock. Like, what is going on?
I love that. Okay, I'm going to give it to you in a nutshell. As always, take it or leave it.
Okay.
So this was one of my biggest questions, right? Like, way back in the day. And so Here's the answer that I downloaded. All right. There are 12 dimensions in this universe. A dimension is a vibrational layer, which means that you can think about each dimension as a radio station, okay? Radio station wave, all right?
Okay.
So there's 12 of those densities in this universe. We are in the third dimension density right now. Source, which is God or the universe or oneness, whatever you want to call it, but there's this giant white light ball in the center of this universe, and Source was the thing that is running through each and every living thing in this universe, and it created all of us as individual incarnations. And so the purpose, okay, of life in the entire universe, not just here on this planet, is we are supposed to essentially incarnate through each of these dimensions. And in each dimension, we have different capabilities within our body, okay? And typically in the higher dimensions, we have grander capabilities of maybe we could create our own planet eventually or our own civilization one day. And then there's more responsibilities and more lessons. The lower the dimension, the simpler the life and the simpler the lessons that we have to learn. So the easiest way to think about it is, say, for example, every dimension has 1,000 lessons that we have to learn. Every lesson is a piece of the whole, the piece of Source. And so we start with nothing. We start with one piece, and we gain access to all of these pieces of ourselves through all of the lessons that we learn in each of the dimensions. Dimension 1, Dimension 2, Dimension 3, and so on and so forth. Once we get to the 12th dimension, supposedly we're supposed to have pretty much 99.9% of all of the pieces of ourselves, right? This kind of grand master, almighty sort of being. And then when we've learned everything that there is to learn in all of the dimensions, we have a choice to make. Do you want to go back to pure source energy and once again just be in wholeness or oneness with this universe and stay there indefinitely? Or do you want to split away from this universe, become your own source, and create your own universe, and subsequently, if you so desired, wanted to go all the way back to Dimension 1 through Dimension 12? And of course, dimensions, and each universe exists in different ways. This is a polarity universe, so you have high vibration and low vibration. But what I'm trying to say in all of this is, the entire point to existence, which maybe gets you really excited or really apathetic, depends on who you are. The whole point is to really just learn, is to be present, is to grow. And so the question that I got asked all the time back in the day, and even still now, is, all right, Elizabeth, if you can channel information from the universe, from beings, from source, from wherever, then my greatest question is, why is there so much suffering on this planet? And maybe all the suffering in the universe as well. And I think that for religious people, it's the same thing. Well, God, if you're, omnipresent and all-knowing and all-seeing and all-loving, then why would you create so much suffering? And so I asked Source this question one time, a long time ago, and I said, all right, Source, give it to me. Why did you create so much suffering? And this was Source's response to me. Elizabeth, imagine right now in your state of being having everything that you could ever imagine. All material wealth, all knowledge, all the friends you could ever possibly imagine. You had the job that you wanted, or maybe no job at all. You had it all. Everything that you could ever possibly perceive, need, or want in this moment. And I said, okay, great, that sounds awesome. And then Source was like, how long would it take you to get bored? And I'm like, yeah, not long. And Source continued to explain to me that it is through challenge, it is through resistance where we learn lessons, and through learning we grow, and through growth we move forward, right? So challenge, suffering, is movement. That's really what it comes down to. And that's why Source was just like, I have everything, but I am just here indefinitely, and I want to have experiences. I want to gain access to knowledge. I want to reincarnate myself into the smallest potential cell, atom of this entire universe, and move forward into more and more greater and greater complex beings, so I can learn more and more complex things and go all the way back to the start again. So I've gone through the phase of, Okay, so cool. Life is meaningless. Of like,
That's where I'm at. That's
I'll
where
just
I'm
do it
at
all
today.
again. Yeah.
No, I will never do this again. I never want to do this again. No.
Yeah, I mean, we've all got a journey to go on. And then I've realized too the other part of it, which is life is so specific. Okay, so now we get into there's a meaning behind everything, and I truly believe that. So now if we talk about kind of the in-between incarnations, so I also believe that we could be a fish, we could be a plant, we could be an insect, we could be moss if we wanted to be, we could be humans, right? And other intellectual beings. So in between every incarnation of being those things, there's kind of this weird liminal place. Some people call it heaven. I just call it like the in-between place. And as a soul, we get to choose, okay, here are the lessons that I learned in my last life. Here are the lessons that I didn't learn so much in my last life. Here's what I want to learn in order to continue my progression of growth and movement and lessons and whatever. Where do I need to go next? Is it the 10th dimension? Is it still the 3rd dimension? Is it a different human in this dimension? You know, what is it, right? It could be anything. And so in this in-between realm is where we really sit down with our spirit guides and our higher self and our guardian angel, and we say, what is next for us? And I believe that maybe not all of the little tiny in-between moments are predestined and contracted, but the big ones, maybe getting into university or meeting a romantic partner or losing a job or getting into a severe car accident at a certain age in your life. Those are all moments that I believe we pre-contracted before we were ever human. So that's kind of where this thing comes in. Everything happens for a reason. I thought for a very long time that my spirit guides were creating all of the destiny, or Source was creating all of the destiny. Technically, we are Source, so I guess Source is, but also I truly believe that we are the ones who sit down to say, at 24, this is going to happen. At 28, this is meant to happen. And these are moments in our life that we have to experience, especially the suffering moments where we learn, we persevere, we move forward, we grow, and we get to where we need to go in each lifetime.
Well, then it sounds like my 2022 for me is a year of back-to-back challenges for growth, and I definitely feel like I can apply that to my life right now, and I'm okay with that, and I can understand that, and I feel like that's a good realization, I guess, because it's like, you're right, every single suffering I've had to, I've experienced has been something that gave me perspective and also just like lessons. However, when I turned 60, I told my kids, I'm not living past 60. I'm done. Just pinch my oxygen. I'm good. And that's where I want it to end for me. I don't want to get old. I just want to close my eyes and just be done, And I know that sounds so weird, but I've been saying that for a really long time. And so I just don't want to go anywhere after this life. I think I'm so tired.
Yeah.
I don't want to do anything after this life. I don't want to.
So I will say that a couple of things. Okay. A lot of souls right now on this planet in particular are continuously exhausted. The reason why is because we've lived a lot of lifetimes on this planet. We've all been working really hard to get us to this point right now, which is of ascension and basically the energetic shift and the grand awakening. And then the other reason why we're really tired right now is because we're fluctuating in vibration every single day, multiple times a day. So in the past, it was like, yeah, I'm just chilling in the 3rd dimension frequency, and this is just my life. This is my reality. But as you mentioned, when you start to question, when you start to wake up, when you start to wonder these things, the energy starts to move. So you raise your vibration into a heightened state, which is kind of like that eagle's eye view of you're observing everything objectively. You're not in life necessarily, you're observing it, which is a higher vibrational state. And then all of a sudden, your kid scrapes his knee and you got to come right back into your body and say, okay, I got to be in it. I got to be mama bear, and so by shifting from a higher state to a lower state, from a higher state to a lower state, all day, multiple times a day, it's absolutely exhausting for the soul to go through that. So you're not alone when feeling this way and feeling challenged and feeling utterly exhausted. That is completely normal. And at a certain point in time, I have hope for you and everyone else listening to this, that you're going to get to a point where you love life so much that you want to be here. You want to eat good food. You want to travel. You want to have experiences. You want to, retire and relax and really just enjoy life.
No, but I have all that. I feel that way.
Yep.
My fear is getting old and passing away. And so it's like, I don't want to get old, and I don't want to see my body old and like wrinkly and things like that. I know this is so crazy. It's probably like phobias of some sort. I don't know, mental illness. And the fear of getting old is also my fear of like, I don't have enough time left to do the traveling. I'm big on travel. I love my kids keep me going every day. Like, if it wasn't for the chaos that I have in my life, I just love it. I thrive on it, but I just can't. I also want it to end when I want it to end. I don't want it to like be the universe saying it's your time. No, it's my decision. I decide to go when I want to go.
But once again, if everything's pre-contracted, you've already decided your exit point. And I want to mention something to you, which is really interesting. So when I was a kid, I would tell my mom all the time, I'm not going to make it past 20. I just told her, and so she's like, oh my God, is my kid suicidal? Like, is there, issues
No,
here?
I'm not suicidal.
Yeah. No, well, of course not. But I had that same experience of like, I just know that I'm not going to live past a certain age. I'm not going to live an older life. And then when I started to re-experience my own lifetimes, my own past lifetimes, I started to realize that I died over and over and over again at a very young age. And I actually never really made it past 20 for a lot of my lifetimes. And so I feel like there's definitely something there with you, if this is a feeling that you've had for a while, of like something about getting old, something about not having a choice when you're older. Like, there's something there from a past life that I think it comes up. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the same for this life, but yeah, super fascinating. Very, very interesting.
I have said this for so long. I don't want to do it. And, it's just not. But the reincarnation thing. So I had this Rottweiler, my first dog ever. He passed away 2 or 3 years ago, and I got another dog 2 years ago. I swear to you, since the day that I brought him home, I said, this is my Rottweiler reincarnated. This is the same dog in another body. Like,
wow.
Cannot even, like, everyone knows that that's how I feel, but it's so crazy because I guess, like, I never really thought about it. Like, I say that, but I never really thought that it was a thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, this is what we talked about right at the beginning, is you have for sure experienced paranormal things, and here you go, you have a reincarnated dog.
No, ask
and you're aware of
anyone
that.
I know. Yeah, no, I have always, even at, like, when I board the dogs, when I travel, my friends, my family, everyone, I'm like, this is Bear reincarnated. Like, it just is. But I never really, I say that, but I don't know how to just,
realize.
I don't know. Yeah, and I guess, is it? Is that really possible?
Absolutely. Funny story. My dad just got a puppy, and they had a husky before, so all different kind of breeds of dogs. And then before that, my stepmom had another dog, and I only knew that dog for maybe a year or two, and then the dog passed away, and then they got this husky, and then they just got a puppy, and the husky passed away as well. And I met this dog for the first time. I'm like, oh, it's Molly. No, it's Callie. No, it's Molly. And she's like, oh, it's Molly. It's their dog from 2 dogs ago. And I'm like, for sure. And I'm like, literally every time I see their dog, I always call her Molly, because I'm like, this is Molly reincarnated 100%. And now, like, and even like the dog's interactions with the people that Molly knew before, I mean, it's so I have to tell you, I just had that experience with my own dogs, my
That's
own
so
dad's
crazy.
dog, and it's 100% possible. Absolutely.
I don't know. I would say it, but I didn't know if I actually like believed it, you know? Um, it's been, I'm going to be more open-minded after this, but
Yes.
you know, I want to experience more. I feel like learning to open, I guess that's like your third eye.
Yeah.
Is that your third eye? Okay. I can't. My oldest son we lived in this house in Pennsylvania like years and years ago. He's probably like 2 years old. I have 4 boys. He's the oldest, and he never sleeps in my bed. He never has. He's just been like the oldest independent. One night he did sleep in my bed, and he sat straight up in the middle of the night, and he looks up and he's like, "She's going home." And I was like, "What?" Like, freaked out, so upset. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Who? Isaac, who's going home? She's going home. And rolls over and goes to sleep. Never been more afraid in my entire life. Ever. And then we never talked about it again. And then, like, around the same time, same house, same room, he's looking in the mirror, and you could see like the closet from the mirror. And he's like, "Mom, why is there a cat in the closet? There's a cat in the closet." And I said, "There's no cat in the closet. I have no idea what you're talking about." And again, never talked about it again. And what do you do with that? Because I've heard that children can see ghosts and talk to spirits and things like that. But I have 4 kids, and none of my other kids have ever done anything like that, just him.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah. So, especially in families, there's typically like at least one starseed that gets born. A starseed is essentially a soul that comes from much higher dimensions and incarnates on this planet at this time. And then you have other souls who are more third dimensional souls who are really present with their reality. Like, even my brother is a year older than me, and when we were kids, I was seeing stuff, talking to stuff, you know, all the time. And my parents noticed at 2 years old that I was very different than you know, his interactions. So the best thing that I could recommend for any parent who's maybe experiencing the same thing with their kid or kids is to really ask questions. You know, oh, like, what is the cat saying to you? Or why is the cat around? But this is exactly what I'm saying. Like, there's so many paranormal moments, and we're like, oh, that's weird. And you just kind of move on with your life. Like, the craziest move on with your life that I've ever experienced was actually with my mom. And it was about a month after I, like, came out to her as, like, okay, Mom, like, I'm not just your daughter. I'm here for a reason, and I'm actually this interdimensional being, and I came to this planet to, like, help humanity out. And she cried. I told her that, and she cried. She's like, "What do you mean I'm not your mom?" I'm like, "Well, I have other moms up there." You know, I don't know.
Yeah,
I
she's
like,
probably devastated.
Yeah, devastated. And so she was just confused, and I was confused, and you know, it was awkward. Anyway, so that was at 18. And then that night, I did some meditating, and I talked to my interdimensional family and my brothers and sisters or whoever, my beings up there. And I said, "Hey, can you help my mom? Like, she doesn't understand who I am. I don't think she really believes in what I can do, and I really need your support." And so I just put it out there, didn't think anything of it. A month goes by, she had this experience. It was only like 6 months after that where I was sitting with my mom around this fire in her backyard, and she turns to me and she's like, "Oh my God, I have to tell you something." And I'm like, "Okay." She's like, "Well, about 5 months ago, like, it was a month after you came here last." And she's like, "About 5 months ago, Brian and I, her husband, we were sitting in the backyard, we were having this fire, and this giant ship comes down." And I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "This weird floating, silent spaceship comes down like 50 feet away from us. I'm like, what, Mom? And she's like, yeah. And so Brian and I got up out of our seats. We didn't say anything. We walk over to the furthest point of the fence, and we're just peeking over the fence at this giant ship hovering there. And the only thing that we said was, I turned to him and said, do you see that too? And he turned to her and just nodded. And then the second they recognized it, the ship went away, they went back to their fire, and they never spoke about it again, ever. And they just literally forgot it happened. I'm like, this happened 5 months ago, and you're telling me about this now? She's like, I forgot. I just literally didn't even think about it. And I know that that was kind of my desperate call to my family to say, can you help my mom understand who I am and maybe give her an experience? And they had that experience a month later. And ever since then, she's been listening to all my podcasts and at the front of all of my conferences that I speak at. And she's like literally my biggest fan. And she doesn't understand all of it, but that was an experience that she had. So it can be that profound of an experience that we literally just don't think anything of, and we walk away from and we move on with our day, because how does that really impact our physical lives? You know what I mean? Other than maybe opening your mind a little bit more. So yeah, it's funny how even in this conversation, you're starting to remember all of these weird things that happen. And I really implore everyone listening to this episode to also think about, what are some weird things, weird moments in your life that haven't really impacted you in a positive or negative way, but are just weird. Think back to those things, and that will start to shift your vibration.
So actually, I posted on my Instagram story about paranormal experiences, and people submitted their experiences. So I'm going to read them so we can react to them. Okay, the first one says, a teen killed himself in the house I grew up in, and I saw his feet one night running up the stairs.
Wow.
That's terrifying. I think that's the thing that would scare me, and I don't know how I would react if, like I said, I mean, I don't think I've experienced anything with spirits or ghosts or anything from, like, loved ones. My grandparents both passed away, and I loved my grandfather more than life, but I haven't experienced anything regarding him, and so I feel like that's, I don't want to say skeptical, I'm open-minded, but like things like, I don't know how I would react if I got like a sign from him. I think I would be scared.
Have you ever had a dream about him?
No.
Do you remember your dreams?
Sometimes, not always. Okay. Sometimes I remember my dreams. Sometimes I just completely don't. Yeah.
You know, a lot of spirits do come to us in our dreams, and that's a very easy form of contact. Now, typically when we see like ghosts in that form in our house or just around, it typically means that it's a spirit that's stuck in that location and they haven't crossed over. So typically when you... it really depends, but yeah, when you see like full ghostly forms, it typically means that they're stuck and they need a medium or someone to come through and basically cross them over. Something else, like I believe we're all mediums and we can all do this work. If someone at home is listening to this and they have some weird stuff going on in their house, what I would recommend is to just kind of make the statement of, you know, you're safe to cross over. Like, you're safe to go to the other side. And for you, if you want to make contact with your grandpa, just tell him, hey, Grandpa, like, I'm open for contact, and I really would love to see you or have a conversation with you, or just know that you're okay. And you're going to have an experience like a weird bird flies in front of you and just kind of hangs around. And you're like, oh my God, that feels like Grandpa, you know, and those kind of contacts as well. So it's important that because there's this law of non-intervention and there's this free will law in the universe, no spirit, no ET can override our contracts, can override our free will. So it's really up to us to say, I'm ready to ascend to the next vibrational level. I'm ready to make contact. I'm ready to connect with you, Grandpa. And when you make those kind of statements, watch out, because, you know, things will actually shift and move, and you will start to really open those doors up for that contact.
It's so crazy that you brought the bird into it, because my grandparents, they were married my whole life. they were bird watchers.
Wow.
Yeah, so they have, like we used to see blue jays and cardinals and hummingbirds. They used to feed the birds. They had at their house, and we would look in the books and then look at the birds out in the woods. And so that's really funny. I would say then for this person where the teen killed himself, they could go ahead and say, like, you're safe here and you can cross over.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Yep.
The next one says, my sister slept walked down the stairs and unlocked the back door to the cemetery. She woke up crying and said a young girl led her down and unlocked the door.
Yeah,
that's terrifying.
Freaky. Yep.
Yeah, that's really scary.
Yeah.
It's things like that I'm just like, I think when I think of ghosts, like that's the type of stuff I think of, which is so scary. But I guess not all spiritual encounters have to be scary.
Oh my God, absolutely not. And I think also we have this mindset of the paranormal is our ghosts, and paranormal is anything that's beyond this reality. It could be aliens, it could be weird dreams, it could be glitches in the Matrix, it could be weird.
What is that even? What is glitches in the Matrix? What does that mean?
Okay. Glitches in the Matrix are like, it's kind of hard to explain. Anything that does not align to linear space and time. So, for example, one time, my wife and I, we were at an Airbnb in Washington, and we sat down on the bed, and there was a little like digital clock that was beside the bed, and the clock said 8:59. And so when we sat down on the bed, I looked at the clock, I just glanced at it, took note of the time, and we proceeded to have this like 45-minute, like in-depth crazy conversation. And then I'm like, okay, cool. Like, let's go take a walk or something, right? And so when we get up off the bed, I take a look at the alarm clock beside the bed, and it says 8:59, and then it goes 9 o'clock, and I'm just so mind blown, and I'm like, babe, how long do you think we were sitting on the bed and talking for? She's like, at least an hour, and I'm like, 1 minute went by, 1 minute. That's a glitch in the Matrix. So glitches in the Matrix happen a lot with time, but also, like, for example, just the other day, me and my wife came home from like a road trip, and I like laid in bed immediately, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. And so she's running around the house. She hasn't even gone into the master bedroom. And she's like, where's my wallet? Where's my wallet? I'm like, I don't know. You just had it on this road trip, but I really hope you didn't like leave it when you went to the bathroom, halfway through or whatever. And so she's like frantically looking, and I'm like, okay, like just wait, and like, it'll show up. And then she like comes into the bedroom. She's like, I give up, like, let's look for it tomorrow. And I said, okay. And so then she opens her side drawer of this like, side table in the bedroom. And she's like, oh my God. And I'm like, what? She's like, my wallet's here. I'm like, no. She's like, I haven't even been in the bedroom. And I'm like, you haven't even been in here? How? You just had your wallet 2 hours ago on this road trip in your pocket, and then it disappeared, and it magically appeared in the side table. That's a glitch in the Matrix. And, we can get into the whole quantum world of why glitches happen, but essentially what's happening right now in a heightened state of vibration is there are many different timelines. Instead of water, I could have had coffee or tea or hot chocolate or something else on my desk today, but I chose water. Those were all simultaneous different timelines. What's happening is we are making a choice, walking down the path of one timeline, and then the glitch happens, and all of a sudden we get the end outcome of a different timeline.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I could all of a sudden go to the bathroom, come back into my room, and this glass of water is actually a cup of coffee. That would be considered a glitch in the Matrix.
Okay. Because when I was reading that, it was like, I don't know what that means. Like, there's a movie, The Matrix. Right. I didn't know what it meant.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next one says, kept waking up to a woman at the end of my bed. Thought I had a brain tumor until I went to see a medium. I don't know why she thought she had a brain tumor.
Well, there's actually a thing called like I forget what it's called, like little woman on the bed. Like there's literally a thing that people experience of like someone sitting on the bed that could be related to like brain tumors.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. So she had to see a medium to
understand that it was probably just the spirit, or maybe her grandma.
Oh my gosh, maybe her grandpa. Well, it was a woman. Doors will come off literal hinges in my house and fall. I would freak the fuck out.
Okay, so I want to explain something. When a spirit is able to affect the physical world, okay, not every spirit can do that. Not every spirit can move objects or, take doors off of hinges. That is considered like poltergeist, right? And so typically when a spirit is so angry and so frustrated and so stuck, they have a lot of low vibration or dark energy to them. And with that low vibration, they're actually able to interact with this physical reality, which can be really freaky. So I would definitely recommend at that point in time, if that is related to a spirit or an entity, I would say either move or get a medium in there to do that. Typically, when a spirit is that strong, it's going to be very difficult for you to cross them over yourself, and you want to bring in a professional for that. But
it's possible to cross them over?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, I've crossed over some really dark spirits before.
That's terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
I saw someone hanging in a barn down my local woods, so I ran as fast as I could. When I got into the part I'd seen the man hanging, no one was there. I called my mom, crying my eyes out. I told her what I had seen. She said her friend's dad hung himself in that very spot in 1983. I ran home as fast as I could, never been back, and it's been 9 years.
Wow. That's so sad.
Is it harder for people who commit suicide to cross over, or is that not necessarily true?
It's not necessarily true, but there's a lot of... okay, let me put it this way. Probably the biggest downside is you took an early exit point because of whatever reason, which means that you're going to be reincarnated and have to learn all of it over again.
What about me? Because I don't want to live past 60. I don't want to learn it again. I want to be done.
You have to trust that your exit point is going to come when it needs to, when you've learned everything that you needed to learn. So you really have to surrender to that. And also remember that your exit point was decided by you before you stepped into this body.
So would it not be the same for people who kill themselves?
So there's an exit point there, but that can be an early exit point. So what I tend to find is every human has on average about 10 exit points. So, a kid getting into a really bad car accident, but walking away unscathed, that could have potentially been one of their exit points. I usually tend to find the majority of those 10 exit points are all at the end of your life, between the age of 80 or 75 and 95. You've got 7 different exit points, and right at the end there is when you're trying to wrap things up and learn your lessons and forgive who you need to forgive and release that. So if you're really proactive and you're completing and neutralizing your karma as you go along, and you're forgiving and letting go and releasing, and you're at a very neutral place, by 60, then you will have lots of opportunity to take an exit point at that time. But you really do have to kind of trust in the process of what is natural is meant to be. Okay.
The last one says, watched a black figure walk into my room and climb up my wall. Absolutely terrifying. So is that a dark situation, or does it not necessarily?
It depends. It's really tough to say, because humans have these experiences, even pleasant ones, and are so freaked out by them that everything could be perceived as really dark or negative, when it could actually be a really lovely spirit guide. I mean, of course, spirit guides usually, they usually have this lighter energy, and you usually feel very calm and relaxed and peaceful in their vibration. But someone who has no idea what a spirit guide is, seeing some apparition for the first time, could be absolutely freaked out, and it could be a very lovely and pleasant situation. And I've actually heard of a lot of cases where people have an experience which is quite beautiful, but they're so terrified at the time that they push it out, and then they're like, I haven't had another experience in 10 years, and I feel like I pushed that out and I just never really opened myself up to anything else, and they feel bad about that. But I do believe that we create our reality based on our focus and our intention. So if your focus and intention is, I want to open myself up to the non-physical realms, I want to start having experiences, I want to start really understanding who I am, things will start to shift and you will start to really understand who you are. The other thing too that you can ask yourself, whenever something happens that is like, especially like freak accidents or things that kind of come out of the blue or come out of nowhere, it's a really good thing to ask yourself, why did I create this? So I always bring it back to this example of like, I just moved from LA. So, LA traffic, right? And you're like sitting in traffic and there's like some teenage kid behind you in the next car over, and he's texting in traffic and he ends up rear-ending you. And you're like, goddamn kid on his phone, texting, rear ends me, not paying attention. I believe that even in that moment where you are completely in the third dimension reality, not to blame, you've created that experience for a reason. So it's like, why did I co-create this experience with this person in particular? Right? So this is what I believe. Everything in our life, especially the negative things, especially the things that seem out of our control, have always been in our control. We decided that needed to happen at that time. And so it's really difficult for people to be like, so what, I'm supposed to go up to a homeless person and say, well, you created this, figure it out, but once again, that's what I believe. Or, a kid getting cancer, it's like, it's hard to believe that your child created that for themselves, but they did. There's something there to kind of take from that, to learn from that. And a good example is I had a client a long time ago, because I don't do, sessions anymore, but I had a client and she got into a really severe car accident. And when she came to me, I said, well, why do you think that you created this? And she blew up at me and she got all pissed off. And she's like, what do you mean I created this? Like, I've got back problems now and da-da-da, whatever. And I'm like, okay, no worries. And so 3 months go by and she comes back to me and she's like, okay, Elizabeth, I'm ready to listen. And I think I know why I created this. And I'm like, oh, okay. And she's like, I had been asking for many, many years to take a break, to get away from my job, to have a new car because my car kept breaking down. She's like, I have physical therapy, I have mental therapy, psychology for PTSD. I've got all of these things that are completely paid for. I have a brand new car. I have 6-month leave off work, fully paid. I've got all these things that I manifested. And I didn't see it at the time, and I'm so sorry that I got angry at you, but now I really see it, and now I'm really appreciative of why that all happened. So it's really important that we kind of stop and we pay attention to what's going on in our lives and what are we learning from that? Why did we create that in our lifetime?
What a way to create something, though. That's,
yeah.
I mean, maybe the universe is trying to teach her a lesson as well. I don't know her, but that's my take from an outsider.
For sure.
So last year you published your first book, You're Not Dying, You're Just Waking Up. You want to talk about that and plug anything else that you want our listeners to know before we go?
Absolutely, yeah. So the book is just so powerful. It's essentially an overview of all of the different stages that we go through in our spiritual awakening, from anxiety and depression and questioning this reality and convincing yourself that you're happy, to opening up and moving into the conspiracy theories and moving into the shadow governments and then moving into the modalities, all the modalities, Reiki and crystals and energy work and this and that. And then it moves all the way into, what is your purpose in life? What is your mission? And it also talks about the different interdimensional beings that are around this planet and who would you be connected to if you are connected to one of these beings. And then it touches upon a little bit of the glitches in the matrix, quantum physics, simultaneous time stuff at the end. So it's kind of like all of the stages that we experience on our journey of ascension and awakening. It's kind of like the awakening Bible for people.
Okay.
So if you are experiencing something like I think you would really benefit from even reading the book. I also have the audiobook version out there too, if you guys like listening to audiobooks. It's a super quick read. It is super conversational. And I really put in my own stories as well of what I experienced in my lifetime going through those stages as well. So yeah, once again, You're Not Dying, You're Just Waking Up on Amazon and Audible. And then I've got courses, I've got programs, I've got webinars, workshops, I've got a fully censorship-free online membership platform as well, connecting starseeds from all over the world together. I also have a Galactic Federation Summit that happens every single month, which is me channeling interdimensional beings talking about what humanity needs to know right now. So that happens actually today on the 11th of every month.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then I also do coaching calls. A lot of people want me to get back into sessions, but it's just so much energy for me. So I take a bunch of people from all over the place, bring them into a Zoom room, and I intuitively choose the people who need to kind of, receive the help. And I channel their energy, their chakras, vibrations, past lifetimes, whatever it is that needs to come out in an hour-long coaching call every single month as well. So, so I have so many offerings, so much going on, but my greatest intention always is to help people understand how powerful they are, to bring the information back within themselves, and to raise the vibration of humanity the best that I can.
For sure. Thank you so much for coming on Barely Famous. I so appreciate it.